So I have to ask, doing the Inception episode, the important question is, did you bring your totem?
I actually did.
I brought mine. What is yours? Explain what yours is.
So mine is, it's called Toma Todo, right? It's winner take all. So it's a Hispanic thing, right? So you basically spin it, right? Spin it and it falls.
Obviously, we're not dreaming.
Right? So it falls on a certain thing, and then depending on what it falls on, you either take, there's coins in the middle, you take one coin, you take two coins, or you take all the coins. That's the point, to get all the coins to take the pot.
So it's kind of like gambling. Well, I brought mine.
Yeah, what's yours?
It's a D&D die, 20-sided.
Nice.
It's loaded like Arthur's.
It's low,
so I know
okay.
how it falls. It always falls on 0.
How much it weighs.
Yeah.
You know how much it weighs? Okay.
It always falls on 0, which if you play D&D is not very good. But it's good for me because now I know I'm not in a dream.
Exactly.
So had you not brought a totem, I thought thematically you would have appreciated this. Boba Fett. I would have given you a little bit of time to study it and make sure that even the architect in the dream could mimic this perfectly. If you want to go ahead and touch that, Boba Fett. Had you have not brought your totem, I would have given that to you as your totem.
Well, good thing I did.
Good thing you did, because if you didn't...
I mean, we could have been in a dream right now and I would never know.
Wait, what?
Where's my totem?
What's going on, y'all? This is Alexander. You are plugged into the Nerd Companion.
What's going on, y'all? This is Alexander from the Nerd Companion. Thank you for plugging in. This episode is going to be about one of my favorite movies, Inception. And by popular demand, I bring back the legendary Victor.
It's great to be back, man. Thanks for the invite. When you told me, hey, you want to do a podcast about Inception, where do I sign?
Where do I sign?
Yeah, where do I sign?
You need blood? No.
Yeah.
I had already signed in blood. This movie was so good.
It's in my top 10. It's in my top 10. Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Top 10. Prior to this movie, I did not have a lot of exposure to Christopher Nolan except for the Batman trilogy. And that was the Batman trilogy was the first exposure I had to Christopher Nolan.
I think most people, right?
Yeah. At least from like because the Prestige was out before that, I think.
I think as far as like how popular the movie was, because
right.
Prestige was good and,
Yeah.
But Batman, the trilogy kind of just...
I think it put him in the mainstream.
Yeah, it for sure did. 100%
and then he went back to do some, like what he probably wanted to do. Not saying he didn't want to do Batman, but I think that was the initial exposure I had, and I had no idea. I had no idea what Christopher Nolan was all about in regard to filmmaking, writing, directing, and stuff like that. And I want to say that this was the first movie outside of Batman that I watched. I immediately was saying to myself, this man is one of the greats.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
I think he said it took him 10 years to finally do it because he'd been wanting to do it for so long, and I think it just wasn't right. It wasn't right for him. So that's probably why he did Batman, all this other stuff or whatever. But when he finally got to it, he was just like, all right, I'm ready. This is ready. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I think for him is that he does a lot of the writing too.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So much of the writing. I think he gets a little bit of input from the producers and stuff, right? But for the most part, it's like, this is what you're doing and this is going to be it.
Right. Coming up with an idea or inception or having something grow, like when you're trying to write, that can take years it could take a year itself just to write out a rough draft. And then from there going in and trying to refine it in so many different ways, and then even on your third draft, you're like, oh no, I need to add this because this, and you do end up rewriting it. I'm not sure how that process went for him, but 10 years.
It's like, why would you want to go watch something that took a year to do?
Unless you're just Not saying that he's
a genius.
super genius, which I mean, I would even argue to say that Nolan is probably one of the greatest writer directors in filmmaking.
Yeah.
Period. I don't care what you say. I put him up there with Tarantino,
Scorsese. Yeah. And he hasn't done. I mean, I don't know about Tarantino, but Scorsese's got like a plethora of movies that he's done, and Nolan doesn't even have maybe half of that stuff. And for him to have not as many movies and already be in that realm with those type of directors, it's
right.
I mean, it's an accomplishment.
I think even Tarantino said he's only making 10 films. And I think that last one with Brad Pitt is his 9th one. So I think he has one more to go.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But
you think he'll actually?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. He seems like the kind of person who's like, no, I'm doing 10, I'm gone.
And that's it.
Unless something just hits him. And he's like, no, we got to do this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nolan to me is one of the greats. Every single one of his movies has been absolutely amazing. Has there been some that I've enjoyed less than others? Certainly, the ones that I like the least stand well above most movies that I see.
Like, you're gonna go watch a Nolan movie. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
You're not wasting your money. You're not wasting your time.
So let's talk about the cast real quick. Obviously, written and directed by Christopher Nolan. You have Leonardo DiCaprio as Cobb, Cillian Murphy as Fisher. He played the Scarecrow in the Batman flicks. I don't even know, like, if you go down this list of actors here, he uses some of the same actors. His movies.
He was in Oppenheimer.
Yep.
Right.
Oppenheimer. He did. He did do Oppenheimer.
Yeah, he did.
Fail.
I'm telling you.
Part. That's one I haven't even seen yet.
I haven't either.
I'm scared to watch that one. That's like one of
3 hours long, and it's a movie that I want to watch, and I want to sit down and watch it
uninterrupted.
Exactly, right? And like nowadays, it's so hard to do that.
Yeah. You have Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Arthur, Tom Hardy as Ames. You have Elliot Page in there, Marion Cotillard as Mal. Ken Watanabe as Sato, and then the infamous Michael Caine as Professor Steven. Such a banger of a cast here.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Star-studded. Just
what's interesting about these names, which we'll get into when we start talking about the different characters in the story. Cobb's wife, Mal, is such an interesting name because in many different languages, Mal means bad.
Yeah.
Like malnutrition, malodorous, stuff like that. So I found that very symbolic and pretty cool that, he thinks about these things when he is writing his story.
Yeah. To me, I guess she could be the villain, right? There's so many just different villains.
Yeah.
But she's not really the villain, right? Because it's just,
and which makes it interesting because, and we'll get into it as we talk about the story. The way that we see Mal is not actually Mal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's how you said it means bad and all this stuff. And she's bad in the movie, but she's not.
Right.
Right? It's just like, I don't know if you heard, Nolan approached Brad Pitt and Will Smith before he approached Leonardo DiCaprio.
Will Smith said no?
Will Smith said yes. Brad Pitt said no. But Will Smith wanted to change some, and that's where we go back to, this is the way I want to do it. Will Smith wanted to change some things in the story about Mal and Cobb.
Right.
And Nolan just wasn't for it. So
I'm glad he stuck to his guns. That's not the first time that Will Smith has turned down a role that would have been good for his career.
Yeah.
He was going to be Neo in The Matrix.
Yeah.
And he turned that down.
Yep.
And they were going to cast a white guy for Morpheus. And he turned that down.
I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's weird because I wouldn't think Keanu Reeves would be a good actor in a serious movie like that. This is pre-John Wick, of course.
Right.
But I feel like that really opened the door for Keanu Reeves in a way. And I don't think that there would have, I can't imagine another person playing that role.
Keanu Reeves is Neo.
There's no other Neo.
Yeah. But
maybe in some dream within a dream within a dream.
Maybe in an Inception.
So the story of Inception starts off basically starts off with the scene where Cobb is looking pretty rough. And he was basically washed up on a shore, being dragged into a room where he is sitting in front of a withered old man. And that withered old man asks Cobb, "Are you here to kill me?" And then the scene immediately changes to a much younger version of this old man. And he is introduced as Sato, sitting in front of a cleaner, much younger Cobb, and another character named Arthur. And what appears to be some sort of business pitch to Sato, right?
And you have no idea they're dreaming.
Right. You're just thinking that they're at this party and they're talking to him about some business opportunity. But unbeknownst to Sato, he's actually in a dream world where Cobb and Arthur are trying to extract very specific and sensitive information. And that is the whole basic premise of Inception, is basically taking someone, sedating them in a way where they don't know they're being sedated. Like
Right,
that's the
right.
art of it, right? Like you're taking someone and you're kind of like almost a thief or
Like
an assassin. in a
It's
sense.
actually it's the actual, like, it's real life. Like you're actually living it, and you have no idea you're asleep, nothing. And it's,
And the art is in like trying to get them to like there can't be an altercation that leads them. Like you can't just go smother someone and put them to sleep.
Right.
Because it may have an effect on the dream in which they're going to dive into. The art is doing it smoothly to where they don't even know it's happening. And so basically, this is basically a test to see if Cobb and Arthur are proficient enough at their job to extract this information with Sato. If they were able to do it properly, I'm sure that they would have been employed by this man. But in the scene, as they are jumping from dream to dream, Sato remembers a minute detail about the carpet. I
Yeah.
can't remember if it was a feeling he had or a smell.
yeah. So it was dream in real life. Can't remember what fabric it is, but in the dream, it's polyester.
Right.
And if this wasn't a dream, this would be whatever, and this is polyester. And then right away they tell the guy, they're like, seriously, bro?
Like, you messed it up, dude. You messed it up. So they end up aborting the dream as fast as they can. They're in the bullet train and they try to get out of there as quickly as possible, because I'm pretty sure it appears that throughout the movie that the technology of Inception, or the technology of living in a dream, is kind of taboo, but people practice it. And I can't imagine it's legal to do. And even looking at it from a broad, standpoint,
Yeah.
it doesn't even seem moral to do. Even in this story, what they're doing, even though Sato has good intentions for what he is going to propose to Cobb in regard to why they should do this big job, it just doesn't seem moral to do so, which is kind of the conundrum, because it kind of plays into Cobb's struggle throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Is the immorality of this act of going into a dream, whether that's taking information or planting an idea. We kind of see that in the past that it has its ramifications.
Kind of crazy. Like, does that stuff actually happen? Do people actually do stuff like that?
Would you know? I mean, you might already have people doing it.
You might have did that to me.
I might
me on
have.
this podcast.
Do you remember how we were approached? As he spins the top nervously.
Does he already know that he's gonna do all this stuff? Because
Who?
Sato, because he's like, oh, we need to buy more tickets on the plane.
Because I'm not sure if I missed it in the movie, but does it explain why Cobb is inside Sato's mind at this point? Because obviously they don't want to be found. They left the train in a hurry after they failed. But was there some sort of prearrangement with Sato? You have an opportunity to incept me, do your best.
So I thought it was
Because it seems like Cobb approached him.
right. So I thought it was them trying to extract information from him without him knowing.
But what were they trying to take?
So you see that on. I just remember the envelope and the blank pages.
Right.
Right. I remember that. So I think he found out that they were trying to do that and was like, no. And that's when he caught him. And then he was like,
So Cobb and Arthur were already on a job employed by someone else trying to
I
get
think
information.
so. I think that's what it was. And then Saito was like, well, you guys almost had me. I've got something that I need over here, and I want to hire you guys.
Yeah.
Right.
So in the dream with Sato, you are met with Mal, which is, I don't think it's actually known who Mal is at this point, but it's a antagonist character that seems to be a theme in Cobb's mind whenever they go into dream worlds. And it's something that's very special and intimate with Cobb. And it's not really said at this point. But it does seem to be a reoccurring problem, according to Arthur, when they see her on the balcony, like, oh, she's here again. He's like, I'll handle it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
She's kind of like a pest.
So I don't know if you caught it. So whenever somehow Mal in the movie, I feel like Cobb kind of like he doesn't know whether to trust Mal or not.
I think he wants to.
Right. So exactly.
So we can talk about the relationship then. So I mean,
whenever
so who is Mal?
Mal is his wife, or deceased wife, right?
Yeah.
So in that scene, when they open up, when they open up the envelope and it's blank, you can see Mao in the background next to Saito, and she's like smiling, like almost like laughing to Cobb. I think at that point it's like trying to get that trust from Cobb so that he can like trust her whenever he sees her in the dreams and stuff like that, kind of like reel him back in a little bit, because he's already trying to, no, I want to go back to my kids, this and that.
Right.
So I think that reels him back in a little bit.
Yeah. He's approached by her. She's obviously a pest. And later on, we find out that they were married. But Cobb and Arthur, they leave. It appears that Cobb is in a different country. He receives a phone call from his kids. We find out he has kids, and apparently he can't go back home. We don't know why at this point. Arthur comes in, says, hey, we messed up the job. They go up to the helipad to where they think they're going to go to a different job, and they're approached by Saito.
Yeah.
And then Saito is basically telling him, your boy that messed up, the architect, and he dimed you guys out.
Yeah.
And I still think what you did was pretty extraordinary, but I need you to do something else. And what he's basically proposing is to implant an idea in the character Fisher's mind. Who Fisher is basically a son of a conglomerate mogul of energy in the world, and basically is going to pass on the legacy, who is going to basically create an energy monopoly over Earth. And so Saito, being a mogul himself in the energy sector, doesn't want that to happen because it'll create a monopoly. And you already know how monopolies work in economies. It's not good. People need options. Whenever you put that much power into a corporation, you're too dependent on that corporation. It takes real reality themes that we looked at in real life and kind of puts that element into the story. And so even though Sato's, on his moral high ground has a good idea and probably would benefit humanity, we're still left with this moral decision. Is this right to do to plant an idea? Arthur says it's impossible, but Cobb, we don't know the extent, but he tells him it is possible. And he doesn't go into how he knows it's possible, but he knows that it's possible, it can be done. And then Saito says, if you do this job, you can go back stateside and see your kids again. Yeah. So we know that Cobb has done something bad and he cannot go back. He can't just walk back in stateside because he's a wanted man. So that's the incentive for Cobb to want to do this. I don't want to do it, but
so it's because apparently they pin the murder on Cobb, that he murdered his wife. Right.
Which we'll get into when we talk about, Mao's, who she is, and the story of how all that happened. Yeah. We can get right into that. So tell us about like the little brief background on Mao and Cobb and what they were trying to do when they were running these experiments and experimenting on the Inception technology.
They were just trying to extract information from people, and somehow the thing that confuses me, the whole window scene, right, where
what window scene?
She jumps out of the right. Okay, so let's backtrack. She is the real life, right?
Is it?
That's what I'm saying. So I'm assuming it is, right, because she dies. But are they in a dream?
Let's backtrack. So you're confused as to if they're in a dream, right, in that scene.
So I think that's part of the movie for me, where I'm like, wait, where are they in a dream? Because she's like, if I jump, will I die? Right.
I'll wake up.
Right. But she doesn't wake up. She dies. So they were in real life.
It's presumed so.
Right? Okay.
Unless Leonardo didn't kill himself and he's forever stuck in a dream. Who thinks he's diving into dreams, into other dreams, but he's actually not. And I think that's the paradox of the entire story, right? Like, what is reality? What is dreams? Which is my favorite theme in this movie, because the question is always, is this scene that I'm watching here a dream? Or is this reality?
Yeah.
And so you don't really understand the magnitude of that question until we get deeper into the movie. But Cobb talks about how those two basically would continue to go into these dreams, right? And they would go and they would spend years there because they loved each other so much. Right. That love was so profound that they were trying to fight the extent of mortality. They wanted to be together
Forever.
And I think the idea was that they could spend 50 years in a dream, wake up, and then go back and spend 50 years in a dream, wake up and do it the next day and continue to do it. So you're kind of like putting in this cheat code for life to get to spend the most time with this person, which is such a beautiful thing. And I think what Nolan does best in all of his movies, that he puts a serious undertone and a very specific theme in this movie. He did it with Interstellar. He talked about the love between a parent and a child.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it was that deep, dark, and bright, colorful, all of the things that come with love between a parent and a child was just magnified in that movie. And he does it so well in this movie, where it talks about the love between spouses and like what you're willing to sacrifice to do it, whether that means insanity
Yeah. So I mean, I think for Mal, she kind of loses, is this real or is this?
Because it's been so long there.
Right, exactly. So at that point, it's like she's just so used to just living this dream life that it's like going to be forever and this and that. And I think that's to the point where she's like, if I jump, will I die? Like,
right.
You know,
I think it also, you know, not to get too serious with it, but when you talk about like the mechanics of the brain, when you talk about like addiction with like drugs or gambling or drinking, like anything, like it rewires your brain with like a dopamine response, and you need to have it.
You have to have that high. You got to have that feeling that, you know, oh man, I loved how I felt when I was in that specific dream.
Right.
I want to feel that again.
And in those dreams, they can create things like gods, like you mentioned. Like you can get in these dreams, you could build buildings, you
lose yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think one of the things that Cobb went into whenever he was recruiting his team is that the architect needed to build something as real as possible to the real thing, but never use your memory. And I think that that's what was going on, is because they were living in this dream world for so long, they were using memories and they were having a hard time differentiating the true memories of reality and what is actually objectively a dream, if the dream itself is objective.
They built the whole city with both of their houses.
Right.
Like just a bunch of stuff from their past and put it all in one city or one dream. And I think that's where they started to kind of lose themselves, more so Mal than Cobb.
Right.
You know, it's just.
So I think Cobb's struggle was basically that he couldn't necessarily, like after that incident, he couldn't dream anymore because he kind of exhausted his brain in a sense. Like he was so used to, you know, if you're going out, hanging out with friends and you do it sober, and then you get into a not so great habit of doing drugs or anything, you know, some people would say that, you know, doing the drugs while hanging out with friends is much more fun. Yeah. It's much more engaging when you're doing it, and then trying to go back and do it sober. It's like, you can never get back to where you were.
I didn't have that much fun.
I mean, like there's people that feel that way. You know what I mean? And so, you know, Cobb being, you know, having his imperfection was definitely like, I can't even dream anymore. Yeah. And the only way for me to remember my memories as a kid, or, you know, memory of my kids or my wife, is the only way to do it through dreams. And you see that he does it all the time through the technology of Inception to go back and live those good moments. And I think that's his crux, essentially. So, you know, Mal having a harder time distinguishing what's real and what's not, because now we're putting these real memories in the dream, and she's having a hard time differentiating what's real, because now she's having these connections of memories that were real inside of a dream world. And I think 50 years of that just kind of compounded, and she just couldn't do it anymore.
It's pretty sad, man.
It's really sad, and no one's good at that.
And Leo Cobb, when that happens, when she jumps, he just completely breaks down. Like no, you know, he loses it. Right. So
so they get back out, and then, because he planted the idea that this dream world, and that was the thing, is that, you know, Bob is saying you can plan an idea, but it has ramifications.
Right. And he doesn't tell his team that until they actually find out for themselves, basically. Yeah. You know,
through Paige's character.
Yeah.
So he knows that it can be done because he did it to his wife. He told her that while in this dream world, this isn't real. And didn't understand that would be a theme whenever she actually came back to the real world. So they come out, and now she's like struggling with these like dual lives that have happened, and she can't differentiate what's real and what's not. She's aware that there's a dream world. She's aware that's reality, but she can't differentiate which is which. Right. She's contemplating suicide. You know, Cobb is just trying to, you know, remind her, like, our kids are here. Like, this is the life that we need to be in. And it basically leads up to that scene where she is completely convinced that the world, the actual reality, is a dream.
Yeah.
And she wants to get back because she has now associated real memories in the dream world to actually being real. And she believes, at least the mechanic of Inception, is that if you die while in Inception, you wake up in reality.
Right.
And so that's the scene, is that she's, set up this romantic anniversary, and this could be our ritual to get back to real life. Like, how poetic is that?
Yeah, and it was in that hotel room was when that was their 1 year anniversary or something like that. There was a meaning to that hotel room.
Yeah. And so she basically held him hostage. And basically Mal reveals that she had planted a letter saying that, he had murdered her, basically forcing his hand because he was going to be a wanted man. And he's like, you might as well just jump and join me in the real world because this dream world that you're living in, which was reality, you're a wanted man and you can't go see your kids anyway. Yeah. So she kind of put him in a spot. She kills herself. And now he's left with...
I mean, he's stuck.
He's stuck because now he's stateside. He's a wanted man. People think that he killed his wife. Yeah. And now he's on the run. And so that's why we find out that why it's so important for Cobb to get back to see his kids, because he hasn't been stateside for seems to be a couple years. It appears that his dad, which was the professor, who kind of is showing a little more mercy.
Yeah, Mal's dad, right? Yeah.
Is that Mal's dad?
Yeah, it's Mal's dad.
So you get why Cobb can't go back and why it's so important for him to go back. Like, he can't just walk back into stateside because he's a wanted man. So that's why they take this job. But he was initially a little reluctant to put the idea in because he understands of what it could
lead to. Yeah.
But I think he's just like, well, I can go back and see my kids.
Exactly.
I don't care what happens.
And it goes, you're going to do anything for your kids. Takes doing what he had to do. Then
ends up being the reason why they take the job. And so the premise of it is basically just trying to plant the idea in Fisher's head that whenever the power gets to him, it's not so much like a power hungry energy company.
Right.
So that's basically the premise of the movie. And then all the way to the end, it's basically them, which is so tense. The entire movie is them, planning this heist,
right?
This brain heist. And
I think, I go back to, I think Saito already knew that Cobb was probably going to take the job because he knew the situation that he was in.
He did his homework.
Exactly. So when he says, I already bought the airline.
Later,
he already knew,
he was going to do it.
Yeah, he was going to do it. So it's like, you might as well. So
what were some of your favorite things about this movie, given that we've established the plot? Like, we don't have to talk about the whole movie, but talk about a couple of your favorite things that you really liked about the movie.
So the layering of all the dreams where you got Arthur's the dreamer in one layer, and then Eames, right? He's the dreamer in the other one. You got the Fisher's the other, well, not Fisher. It was three of them, right? It was Eames, Arthur, and who was the other? Fisher, right? So you got all these layers. That's kind of cool. And then how they, all the where the truck is like flipping over, and in the dream, in the next layer, they're losing gravity, and
right.
The whole thing where the thing with Fisher where they trying to bring him back, and you got the lightning.
Oh yeah.
And the next one. The rain,
like the mechanics of the level above,
right?
Plays into the dream that th're in currently.
That's just so cool, and then to think that they didn't CGI a lot of this stuff. I think the only thing they CGI'd was the buildings and all that stuff, but the gravity of the hallway in the hotel room, stuff like that. That was all like ropes. They think they even created.
Did they really?
They created a actual hallway that spins.
Oh my God.
And they put ropes on them and everything to make it more real. The bun on Paige, they put her in a bun, and they make sure everyone has short hair so that their hair wasn't like flipping around. So it made it even more real when they were doing all that stuff, and when Arthur was tying them up and putting them in the hotel room.
Oh, that was so gangster.
Yeah, so because they missed the kick, Arthur has to improvise while they're in whatever floating
to create a kick.
Yeah. And for him to think that and tie him up and put him in the elevator. And
Like that whole sequence,
Yeah.
like the last like hour is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like how everything happens. And they did such a good job of like going back to the van and like falling. And you're like, come on, come on. Like, let's go. But they could draw it out because the mechanics of the dream is that 5 seconds in this dream is, a couple days in this dream. And a couple days in this dream is 10 years in this dream. Time slows.
It says it on there. It's you can look it up, and it's like for 1 minute is 7 hours in the next one. And, for 7, it says it on, you can Google it and whatever. But, when the van is falling, I'm just like, man, that van is.
It would have been falling. This is fake.
But it's crazy, man. It's like that for me was really cool. Him, Nolan using all these actors again, like his favorite character, his favorite actors. That's kind of cool too. Like, Mal came out on Batman.
Yep.
Arthur came out on Batman. I think
Michael Caine was in
Michael
Batman.
Caine. Who was
Tom Hardy as Bane.
I don't know if DiCaprio did any other Nolan movie except for this one, right?
Not the top of my head.
So, but it's like that's another thing that's like kind of cool for me is him bestowing trusting them to do his masterpiece, if you will, right? But just trusting these characters and these actors to deliver. That's kind of cool.
No. Yeah, that was the only one.
Yeah.
What else about the movie did you like?
There's just, man, it's so much just the character of DiCaprio and just
I think
just doing whatever it takes to just get back to his kids and even going into like even as far as so much as to go into limbo and thinking I may not come back.
Right.
But I've got to, because if he doesn't go and get Saito, then he can't go see his kids.
Yeah, he's gonna be stuck on that plane.
Right.
Good. And
so that's another thing for me that is doing whatever it takes, man. That's pretty cool.
Some of my favorite things, for me, I'm a big music head. I love soundtracks.
Yeah.
Is Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
He does so many good movies, from Lion King, the original Lion King, to Batman, to Superman, Inception. He's done a couple other Nolan flicks as well.
Yeah.
But Hans Zimmer with that drop, that bong, was so original. That started a revolution in like trailer music.
Yeah.
Like everyone tried to emulate that for years, and it's still emulated today.
They say they're trying to bust your eardrums as soon as the movie starts or something.
Let's do it. Yeah, as soon as the beginning hits and it hits syncope, and then it hit like all of the things, and you just get that. It's just like building like, ooh, what is happening here? Yeah. But Hans Zimmer, he's amazing, and you can tell, like you can listen to the soundtrack and just know that his array of style is vast. He does like fast stuff, slow stuff, builds. One of my favorite builds in all like soundtrack music is in this. Yeah. I can't remember. So, it's right before Mombasa, the song Mombasa, where it's like a series of numbers, which is the code that Fisher gave. The way that they like hype up the violins, like all the way up to this crazy crescendo, and then boom, that drop. Like he's just so good.
There's a thing on the soundtrack that these movie nerd buffs, right? That they say
like these two sitting in chairs,
just a little bit. So they say how like in the soundtrack, if you go through the soundtrack, even the name of the song, it's like short names, and then it gets longer and longer and longer, and then they get short again. The length of the songs on each one, the length of the song of the kick, the French song, is 2 minutes and 28 seconds long. Yeah. I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but the length of the actual movie is 2 hours and 28 minutes.
Oh, that was purposely done.
So
there's no way that was
and then that song that you're the bomb 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 is a slowed down version of the French song with the kick. Like Nolan is a freaking genius, man. Zimmer, like it's
Nolan probably was like, this song is pretty much the theme of the movie. And Hans Zimmer was like, okay, I can do something like that. And he brilliantly did it.
Like, how many directors actually go that deep and do stuff like that? Like,
I don't think there's many. I really don't think there's many.
Yeah, you've got to appreciate that. Like, as as a moviegoer, as someone that likes to go see movies, and that the director thought about things like that,
Right.
things that most people probably don't even care about. But it's
he probably also had so much more autonomy being the director and the writer.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he wanted to have, like, whenever he's doing projects, he wants to do it the way he wants to do it. And I don't think that's necessarily like some people like, oh, that's just power hungry.
Yeah,
or
it's
whatever.
selfish or
Like, no, like that was his vision. That's his baby. Like if he wrote it and he wants to direct it, he wants to give you what he wants with as little as outside changes as possible. Yeah. And I don't think many directors do that, or even writers go into the director sector. He was trying to, like, his movies are his babies, and you can see that with every movie that he makes.
Yeah. I think with when he finally got DiCaprio, I think they spent like 2 years together, but I think at no point, I'm sure DiCaprio probably was like, oh, what did we do? But I think at no point was there ever of like, well, you should change this. And so that the trust that DiCaprio, such a big actor, had on Nolan to deliver.
I think that Nolan does a really good with choosing cast as well. Like he can take, I think he works to find not well-known actors and puts them in who are very talented. Obviously there's a lot of big names in this one, but in other movies you can see that he's gotten actors and actresses that really don't have a big repertoire or a big resume who are absolutely brilliant in the movie.
I mean, it's all, you can even say that Nolan, the actors that he has in Inception, I mean, I'll maybe put him on the map, with them being in Batman. Right. So, and then I think he even said that he regretted not giving the actor Sato a bigger role in the Batman, because he was in the Batman movie. So I think he came out and said he regretted not giving Sato, or what his real name is, a bigger role in the Batman. So that's probably why he gave him a pretty big role here in Inception. He's the reason why Cobb sees his kids.
Ken's a good actor too. I really like him a lot. Like any role that he does, he's really good.
Yeah. So with Levitt, Arthur, I think the last thing I remember him doing before Batman Inception was Angels in the Outfield. I don't know if you remember that movie. So before all that,
was that the one where his dad wouldn't come home?
No, that's the one where
the year.
That's the one where the Angels are helping the team win, and they're like carrying him to catch the ball. And
it's not a major league team, right? Or
it's the Angels.
Yeah, I think that's the one where he's like, I'm not like that. The dad leaves. He's like, I'm going to get milk, and never comes back.
I think
he's like, I'm never coming back unless the Angels win.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so so they're an orphanage and stuff.
Yeah,
right. But that's
what a piece of shit.
Yeah,
don't even come back, Dad. You coming back was contingent on the Angels winning the pennant.
I'm gonna go for the Yankees.
Of course, as a little boy, you're like, anything, Dad. But now going back as an adult, like, screw that guy.
Yeah,
screw that guy.
F the Angels.
Yeah. Pool hose. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I hate you, pool hose. You're the reason why the Astros could never win in 2006. Or whatever stand of the Stros.
Yeah.
Man. So, okay. Another theme that I really enjoyed in this movie, and really I'm going to get into the weeds here, is the themes that Nolan chooses for his movies. And he kind of has like a slow burn of that theme throughout the movie. And the one I picked up the most was guilt and regret. We talked about earlier how Cobb, is filled with guilt, and that's a lot of his stuff contributed to why he can't architect dreams or go into his dream, because a lot of his guilt and regret creates a manifestation of characters in his life to perform in a malicious way. And we see another malicious. We see that through Mal.
Yeah.
Right. So as the viewer, we're seeing Mal as this villain, and it's not even essentially Mal herself. It is the guilt and regret manifestation of Mal that we're seeing, that he has created in his mind.
And that's why I'm saying, like, to me, that's probably another thing that I like. There's not really a villain in the movie,
except for his guilt.
Right. So if you want to put a villain, it's
Leo.
Yeah. Damn you, Cobb.
Fucking Cobb. It's all your fault. We were better off with Fisher running a conglomerate energy corporation, enslaving us. But so you see that, and it really resonates, because every time I watch a Nolan movie, especially when we're talking about like Inception or Interstellar, and even some degrees of Tenet, I always leave that movie very introspective and am I doing things right? Because when I left that movie, one of my biggest fears in life is growing old and being filled with regret or guilt. You know what I mean? I can't imagine a worse nightmare.
I think a lot of people probably are like that in some way, right?
I would think so. I would hope so.
Yeah,
like someone's thinking that far ahead.
Why didn't I do this? Or 10
why
years.
did I do that?
Right. Yeah. So I get what you're saying, where Nolan can kind of make you think twice about
he really engages my thoughts. And that's why I love his movies so much, is because it's not like you're watching, Avengers, nothing wrong with Avengers, but you're watching Avengers for like a sheer entertainment, for the visuals, the sound, the fighting, like you're watching all that. And I get all that with Nolan, but I leave Nolan's movies going, am I living right?
Yeah.
Which is profound.
Very, very much so. He was doing an interview with James Cameron, the Titanic guy.
Another guy
that takes 10 years.
And it shows.
Yeah. So he was talking to him, and he was talking to Cameron about his dreams, his actual dreams. And that's how he came up with the idea of Inception, because he kept trying to
The Inception idea came from Cameron?
No, it came from Nolan, but he was explaining to Cameron how he came up with the idea.
Oh, gotcha.
That he was in college, when he was in college or something like that. And he was like purposely trying to dream and remember his dreams, and then going back to try and change some of the, it's just.
Do you do that? Do you try to remember dreams when you have them?
All the time.
Yeah.
So what's crazy is right before you asked me to do this podcast, me and my wife were having dinner, and she was like, you woke up and you were talking in your dreams. I was like, and I don't ever remember any of my dreams.
None?
It's very rarely. Like, I can't remember stuff. So she's like, yeah, you were talking in your dream. I was like, really? What I said? She was like, you said you screamed out spider and you jumped. And as soon as she said that, instantly remembered what I dreamed. Like, it's crazy. I didn't remember. And she told me, I think the very next day about it. And I instantly remembered it, like vividly, what I dreamed. It's crazy. I don't know. That was just kind of like.
So I read somewhere or heard somewhere. It's probably BS, or it could be real. I'm not sure.
If it's on the internet, it's not BS.
If it's on Facebook. That if you wake up and before you move and do anything, that if you just lay there, awake, and try to think about like what you were dreaming about, you have more chances of remembering before you get up and move and go than you would if you just got up and went.
Got it. Yeah.
It's like trying to sit there, like not even like to turn your head to like grab your phone.
Like as soon as you wake up.
Like as soon as you wake up, open your eyes and just like don't move and just like think.
Yeah.
And so every time when I wake up, I can remember segments of like little dreams.
Right.
And some will be really intense. And when I wake up with those images in my head, I purposely do not move. I purposely will sit there. I don't care what time it is, like what I have to do, what deadline I have to meet. If I've got to be somewhere at a certain time, I will sit there and go, okay. Because like from a creative standpoint and things that like I'm trying to do outside of this, I always use like that imagery or that emotion that I was feeling or anything to use for my creativity. Right. So this movie to me is like, it means so much more to me than probably like an average person of, the complexities and the power of dreams in itself.
Yeah.
So
you appreciate that Nolan went out of his way to think of this and just like, here's the movie, enjoy, instead of just like these movies that are whatever. You're like, oh, it was all right. Like for Nolan, it's like, man,
it's his baby.
Yeah, like, it's crazy. I have dreamed before, and where it's like you kind of remember stuff and you go back to sleep because you want to jump back into the dream that you were just in.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've done that a few times.
Have you been able to go back? Me neither. I thought you were going to tell me you could. I was like, you have a superpower. You have to share me. You have to share with me. Because you'll even have, like, for me, I'll even have nightmares that are terrible. Like the worst fears you can think of as a dad or a husband.
Yeah.
And I know that it's fake when I wake up, but I'm like, I want to go back there. Like, even if it's terrible, like you witnessed your wife's death. Yeah. Let me go back there. Let me feel those feelings. Let me see what.
If you can change something. Or
not even change, but like experience something that you may not have to experience. And that might be like some sick, twisted thing in my head. But, the stuff I'm doing outside the podcast, like I try to get those feelings. Those things can be more compelling when you're trying to, propose an idea or something like that. Like, is to really feel those things, because not every day are you going to witness like crazy, tragic things or be haunted by some evil spirit or see some image that you were stuck in that was just so horrifying.
Yeah.
All you wanted to do was run. But, strangely enough, you just want to go back so you can experience the horror and the majesty of endless imagination.
'Cause like you said, you don't get those feelings all the time. So you, oddly enough, want to experience some of those feelings sometimes, I guess.
Which is why Cobb always goes back.
Yeah.
Why Cobb always goes back to those dreams, right? Like he was trying to get back to the happy memories that he had.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done I don't know if you've ever had, who doesn't get deja vu, right?
I get deja vu.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, where did this happen? Like, did I dream this? It's so weird, man. Do you ever get deja vu? And then, what they say, when you get deja vu, you got to change something, because
I've never heard that.
Yeah. So
you have to change it.
You have to kind of like, so like, let's say right now I've got deja vu doing this podcast. Do some weird or like spill my water. So if it's something bad, if you don't change something, then something bad is gonna happen. I don't know.
That's scary. I'm glad I never thought about that. Now you've planted that idea.
So now when you get deja vu, you gotta like pick your nose or something, like
as I do that. Okay, so I think we can go right into the ending of the movie and talk about the different theories.
How much time do we got?
Probably wrap it up in 10 minutes, I think, probably.
Yeah,
or just go as far as you think you need to go.
So where do you think it ends? What do you think?
So every time I watch the movie and everyone else is coming out of the dream because they got what they needed, and then Cobb is the choice: do I just go out with them, or do I go deeper to get Sato? Which is the beginning scene of the movie. Are you here to kill me? And when he says that, he's like, say old Sato is basically saying,
was that line the
or are you here to write to so that I may honor the arrangement? It's like that memory clicks.
Yeah.
He's like, he remembers why he's there because he's so deep in these dreams that he like is losing his sanity, and then he remembers, and then the scene immediately changes to him on the plane.
Yeah.
And in my head, every time I watch it, I'm always suspended in this doubt that he is not in reality. Like he is now just in a deeper level dream that he wants to stay in for the sake of staying with his kids, or that he was not able to save Sato. And so he just kind of went back into a different dream, or went deeper into a dream, and decided to stay there because the arrangement wasn't going to be honored. He didn't save Sato. So the best he was going to get is stay in this dream and ride the possibility he might go insane like his wife, just so that he could be with his wife and kids one last time. So when you're watching it and you're seeing all the characters and they're kind of like half acknowledging each other because they probably don't want to appear to, that they were all in on it or whatever.
Did something illegal.
Yeah. And then he gets home and he finally looks at his kids' faces and he twists the top and it cuts off because you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's real or not.
So, there's multiple theories, right?
Yeah.
We've probably all seen them. So when he spins the top, he sees his kids, you see this top spinning. So every time in the movie before that, when he spins the top, I think there was even a scene where he has a gun and he spins the top and he right away gets on the defense, puts the gun, and he waits for the top to stop spinning. So once it stops spinning, puts the guns down. Okay, we're in reality. Every single time he spins it, he waits for it to stop or not. So in the end, he spins it, sees his kids, goes straight for him, doesn't even turn back to see if the top stops spinning or not. To me, at that point, I think he doesn't even care if he's dreaming or not. All he cares about is that he's with his kids and this is the reality or dream or whatever that I want to be in.
Right.
Right? Now,
so you were talking about the top. I have read and seen that in the dreams, when he spins the top, because he's so hyper focused in the dream that there's not really. So, okay, let's go back. Everyone has their totem, right? The mechanic of the rule of the movie is that everyone has their totem and no one else can use the totem.
Yeah.
Some people can hold the totem, and Arthur says that I can't give you my die, you can't use it. And I think that led people to believe that the mechanic won't let you use it, but I don't think that that's what it meant. I think it was misinterpreted as
Your own, like you can make a copy of it.
you can make a copy of it or you can hold it, but I think what he was saying is that I can't give it to you because once you understand how my totem works, if we were to go into your dream world, you would mimic my totem.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Right.
So that's why you can't use it. So he's using the top, which we find out that it was Mal's.
Right. So it's not even his totem.
Right.
So, I mean, I've
So
got
he's-
another
So he's
theory
using
about
it.
that.
Right. And because it's not his totem, the mechanics don't necessarily follow the same rules if it was his totem.
Right.
So he's spinning the top and he's hyper focused on it. And because he's in a dream world, he is able to manipulate or has some conscious control over this top because he's so infatuated with determining if he's in dream or reality. Him being so hyper focused on it, being in a dream world where it will defy mechanics, that top will spin endlessly anyway.
Yeah.
And the moment that he looks away, whether he is in a dream or not, the top could topple.
Yeah.
So I don't think that is the end all be all,
Right.
even though no one has said that you can kind of see it playing off,
Right,
fading
right.
off right before it cuts black. So I don't think that would be the true measure of whether he's in a dream or not. And it was referenced that, and I don't understand this part that I'm getting into, but they were saying that his wedding ring might have been his totem and that, I'm not sure how he used it to determine if he was dreaming or not. In every scene that was a dream, he had his wedding ring on. But we never saw him do anything with the wedding ring that was off. Now, I'm not sure if they use that as an Easter egg to show the viewer that this is how we know he's in a dream or what he's not, or if that was his totem. But if it was his totem, why wasn't it visible at any point in time while he was in reality? What purpose did the totem serve him?
Yep.
And so that's why I was like, is that really his totem though?
Yeah, because because Nolan emphasizes that the top is Mal's totem, right? So the whole Arthur thing where it's like, well, I can't let you touch it, and because then you replicate it or whatever it is. So why would he emphasize? Why would Nolan emphasize that that's Mal's totem, right?
Right.
So they never actually say what's Cobb's totem, right?
And so you have to not understand, but you would have to imagine that Mal and Cobb being so close that there might have been an exchange in totems, or he picked it up, or even in that dream world where he picked it up out of that safe, that now he understands how that works and he's able to manipulate that top in a dream world.
Right.
So whenever he spins it and it spins endlessly, it can spin endlessly because he can control it. Now he can replicate it in a dream.
He can stop it if he wants, probably too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think whenever he diverged from his attention from the top to his kids, and that's when it began to fall, even if it fell, it still doesn't, I still don't think it's an end all say all that he's in reality.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because the top will do its thing. If he's not hyper focused on it, the top will do its thing. And then do you see where I'm going with this?
It's
but even though people have come out and said different things,
there's so many videos and stuff. Nolan actually comes out because of all the the unexplained or explained or whatever you want to call it. He comes out and says, all right, enough. This is what it is.
You fools.
That wasn't the point. Yeah. So it's funny. There's a video out there that says ending explained, right? And it was Screen Rant. I think it was Screen Rant. And it says the very beginning of that it's a freaking project. It's pages long. So in the very beginning of that paragraph, it says Nolan comes out and says the point of the movie is not whether he's dreaming or reality. The point of the movie is for you to understand your reality that you're in. And if that's the reality you want to be in or dream, whatever, then that's what it is.
That's your reality.
It doesn't matter what anybody else says or thinks.
Your reality is the perception of things that you intake
exactly
in your brain to respond.
So it's funny in that whole thing, it says that, and then they still come out with all these.
But you're still stuck.
Yeah.
I think the whole point of it was not to get you to find out the answer. It was the answer that you wanted, because the answer that you wanted for yourself is the same entitlement that Cobb has when he decides this is real or not.
Yeah.
Right? Like as the viewer, you're entitled to believe what you want because I don't tell you what's real and what's not.
Right.
Is the same entitlement that Leo has, that he decides whether this is real or not.
Right.
Have you heard the Michael Caine theory?
I have.
Okay.
I have. Yeah. Where he says, I think while he was reading the script, right, or something, he asked Nolan, where in my parts am I in reality and where am I in the dream? And I think Nolan tells Caine, every time you come out in the movie, it's reality.
And I think that's the defining
I think so too.
thing. If he's coming out and saying that, that's the defining thing, which would lead most viewers to say that this is actually reality.
Yeah.
Right. And then even the wedding band theory,
which makes a lot of sense.
He doesn't
too.
have it in the plane.
Right.
And I don't know if they try to get a clear shot with him in the room with the kids, but you don't clearly see it. So it's stated he didn't have it.
Yeah, I think when he's putting the top down, it's it's on his left. When he's putting the top down, you can see it, and he doesn't have it on. But you can see his left hand, and he doesn't have it on when he's spinning the top.
I mean, there you go. If those are the mechanics, that's it. My only question is like, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, I'm with Nolan. Like it wasn't until you asked me about this podcast where I was like, I dove more into it, and I was like, is it real or not? Before that, I didn't even care. Like all I cared about was that he got to go back with his kids.
Yeah.
That's
But even in a way, and that could be because we're sane and we don't have that technology, that there's something haunting about the fact that he's still choosing to live in a world.
Yeah.
And he can't accept.
Right.
He can't accept the tragedy that happened in his life, and he cannot move on.
Yeah.
Like there's something haunting about that.
It is, man. It's pretty crazy.
Heavy.
Yeah.
It's very heavy.
Yeah.
My only question is about the wedding band is like, what purpose did it serve as a totem? Like if everyone's saying that's like me trying to debunk the theory that the wedding ring is a totem. Like surely it's an Easter egg for the viewer to see, to make a connection that this is the difference between reality and dreams. Yeah. I don't understand stretching the idea that was his totem, because
maybe it was more for Mal to see. Maybe it was more for because she would probably love him more, trust him more if she saw that he always had,
or guilt that he took it off. Right.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Like he's
right.
Not,
like
he's
if she were to see him without it,
because she's always coming in the dreams.
Right. She would maybe be like, "What's going on? What is this?
Do you not want to be here with me?"
Yeah.
And,
who knows, man? That's Christopher Nolan for you, man. He's a freaking genius.
I love the thought-provoking endings. I know a lot of people don't like it because it's like, I need a definite answer.
Yeah.
But the ending of a movie that leaves you deep in thought and leaves you to have inward thoughts about yourself and how you live is beautiful in itself.
Yeah, it's far more better than the good guy wins, right?
Right.
All the movies are like that. Like, in the end, you can go see a movie. Oh, I already know how it's going to end.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So for Nolan to do this and kind of do that at the end, it was like, that's pretty cool. Makes you want to go see it again too.
It's definitely rewatchable every single time, because you might catch something. There were certain things that I caught the multiple playthroughs that I said, I didn't even notice that. Like even the whole beginning scene where he's talking to old Sato.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even remember that scene.
I didn't
was
either.
like going, oh this is interesting. I didn't catch that the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't catch
the hotel rooms. The number of the hotel rooms are like his anniversary, or no, was it this is super crazy Easter eggs, right? The number of the cabs are the anniversary. The train that crashes into downtown says the number 2503 or something like that. The number of the hotel rooms is the same combination as the combination that Fisher gives.
Yeah.
I mean, just
like I was thinking when I watched the movie that, maybe Mal was right about everything. As you were saying before, when you were saying you weren't sure if Mal jumping off was, was reality or dream. Because at the end of the day, you're watching this movie through the perception of Cobb.
Right.
Right. and you don't really get Mao's, objective story. You only get it through the emotions through Cobb. So we have no idea that, Cobb could have went insane.
Yeah.
And Mao tried to get him out. And this was just another level of him doing it. And, Cobb is living this tortured life where he's just trying to get back to his kids, and Mao is seeing him, and Mao's trying to get him out. And they're still plugged in,
right?
Both still plugged in somewhere. And Mao's trying to do everything that she can to get him out. You're torturing yourself. I did this to get us out. You weren't listening. And then you go back into these memories that you're not supposed to be going into. You're torturing yourself. Please wake up. Yeah. And so I'm left with maybe Mao was right in a sense. But
imagine if 10, 15, 20 years down, Nolan comes out and says that.
He'd be such a troll if he did that. So I know I previously came out and stated that this was it, but this is it. And he runs away near neck goes crazy.
He just goes into hiding. Oh man.
What do you rate this movie? 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10. Just doing okay. So I'm not gonna rate it as high because when you watch the movie for the very first time, it is confusing AF. It's just what are they talking about? So if you just watch it one time, it's probably a 7, 6.5. I would say about 6.6.
Would you say that watching the movie the first time, do you think it had... So you watched the movie one time. Do you think it had any rewatch value?
Oh, yeah. Definitely it did, because you want to go back and watch it because you're still a little confused as to what the heck is going on. So after watching it again, it goes... Overall, if I watch it a bunch of times and I understand it, I know what's going on, I'm going to give it about a 7.7.
Let's go with the 7.7.
Yeah.
I think the rewatch value should play into account.
Yeah.
I think...
So if it's somebody that doesn't like watching movies over and over, or I've already watched it, I'm not going to watch it again, then you're never going to catch everything. You're not going to understand the movie. You're going to watch it and be like, oh, I don't know, it was just about dreams.
It's literally sci-fi Den of Thieves.
But no, man, it's highly recommended. Definitely watch it more than once, for sure.
Yeah.
7.7. Star-studded cast. Christopher Nolan.
Man.
What else could you ask for?
I don't know. Another Nolan flick.
Right.
Which we're going to get. We're going to get Homer, the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Which is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I give this movie... So I'm very strict on my movies and my ratings for things. I say that over and over again. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I give this movie a 9.
9.
No, I give it a 9.
Okay. Yeah.
I purposely wanted to choose a movie that I thought really meant something to me, because I don't want people thinking, because I usually give high 7s, low 8s for movies. And I don't particularly believe that there's a perfect movie. There's some that come close.
I've got one perfect movie.
What is that?
Back to the Future.
We'll get into that later. I give it a 9. The music to me was phenomenal. The cast was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The sequences in the movies, the depth of emotions, the depth and complexity of the mechanics that the theme of the movie, the Inception, going into dreams, upheld true. I didn't feel like there was any rule that was kind of broken or bent. Right. The only thing I didn't understand was shocking, coming from the medical field. And I was like, the dude got shot in the chest and you just shocked him and he's magically back alive.
Not just that, but he waited to shock him.
Well, I think they needed time.
Right.
But then again,
okay, I guess you could say, right, in that reality, time's going so slow, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because he puts the stuff on him, but he doesn't shock him until a little bit after.
Right. For what seemed like eternity.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that would have been years in that other level that I totally forgot they went to when I watched it again. I was like, oh man, they went a whole other level.
But he shocks him once and then he comes back.
Which, yeah. So
who cares?
Yeah, I don't get it. Maybe because that shock lasted so long because of the depth of the dream they went to.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That the
Leo
timing,
had that much time to go back and get him because he went so deep into levels to get him back up and still ride that kick all the way back up. So
and that's cool. That when I was saying earlier about the shock, you can see all the lightning in the background when they're shocking him.
They did so good.
Yeah,
so good. I give it a solid 9 out of 10.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Definitely top 10 easy.
Yeah. I remember when it came out, and it hadn't been done before like that. all of the buildings and just like
Yeah, it
the
was new.
mind blowing stuff that was going on, and you were like, "What the heck am I watching?"
The trailer definitely made you feel like you're gonna watch like. I thought I was gonna be watching something like The Matrix.
Yeah, even the cover of the movie, the whenever if you bought the Blu-ray or something like that,
Have it.
yeah, it's just the buildings are going crazy and they're all like running and stuff.
Such a good flick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to get out about the movie?
No, man, I think you just go watch it. Watch it more than once.
Watch it more than once for sure, unless you're a super genius and you just you just get it. One Nolan movie I had to watch over and over again was Tenet, and I still feel like
I still have not seen Tenet, so I have not.
If you thought Inception was hard to grasp,
that's what I keep
Tenet
hearing, man.
is crazy. It uses time and what appears to be like a U. It's so.
So that's why it's hard to make a movie about time. It's so hard to make to make a good movie about time, and that's why I think Back to the Future is the perfect movie. But
I just want to stress the importance of like music scores in movies. Every time that I hear the song "Time" from that album, from that soundtrack, I cry.
Really,
I cry.
I'm gonna have to go listen to it.
Yeah, because it plays like right there at the end when he's walking into the house and seeing his kids and like having that and just being in that moment and knowing that that moment's not going to last forever, that I'm going to die, they're going to get old and die, my wife's going to die. Like it's always just about like seizing the freaking moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like that to me is why that movie rates so high. Is like, it's not, I didn't just watch Lord of the Rings where I just got like this crazy story that I was invested with these characters. Like this made me go home and was like, I need to capture every single moment and live my life. So at the end of the road, I am not filled with regret. I'm not filled with guilt. And that to me is so profound. I was just, it really, if a movie can do that, make you think something and apply something in your life, you can't even put a measure or value, at least to me. Like that's how much that movie hit me. So every time I listen to that song Time, I'm just like, I get too emotional. Like when it comes on, sometimes I'll click next.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's an amazing, timeless piece.
Unless you need a good cry.
Yeah, sometimes, but every single time I get emotional, and I need like 20 minutes to calm down. Like I'll need to put I need to put something stupid on, like like a stupid comedy. Yeah, that's just terrible. Like I think you should leave, or I think it's time. You know that Netflix.
Yeah.
I need to watch something like that to get out because like it puts me in a funk, dude, in the best ways.
No, I get it.
Awesome. Thank you for coming by.
No, thanks you for inviting me on again, man. It's a lot of fun. Always a good time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
That's right, because I'm so...
Hit that follow button, the little doorbell.
Because I won't say it. He knows it.
I'll say it for him.